Yes, I am back for another episode of Med Twitter T. Um, yeah, you guys thought you got rid of me, but here I am to annoy you again. I'm just gonna say, I'm not sorry for not uploading anything because I'm not a YouTuber, even though I am posting videos on YouTube. But, I said from the start, this is my own reflective journey and reflective piece. Um, if people are watching it and are having thoughts about it, that is great, but that is not the primary aim of this at all. The primary aim is for me to collect my own thoughts together, and recording a video works quite well for me because I don't like writing. I don't think I'm a good writer, but strangely, I've actually made nearly 1,000 words of notes on this topic because, yeah, it's been messing with my head for a wee while now, and I just had to just get something down. And on this episode, I'm of course drinking tea. It's a nice, lovely green tea, courtesy of my flatmate Joe. Um, yeah, so I guess let's go. Um, so this tea is courtesy of Imperial College Union. Um, so my beautiful colleagues wrote an open letter that said certain tasks within the healthcare environment are menial, and to be honest, they quite rightly got roasted for it. But I think people are missing the key sentiments, and that is stop asking students to work for free. It's not okay, it's very ridiculous. So all the professional bodies that I am aware of and all the different regulating bodies and everything, they've literally said if you need extra help and extra staff, that's calm, but pay the people. Like the government literally said, pay people at either band 2, 3, or 4, and don't make them work over 15 hours, offer people contracts. And it just seems that some universities and some NHS trusts are very, very resistant to this idea, and I just don't understand this at all. Like, there's this narrative of, yes, come in and play your parts, we are all one big team, and all that nonsense, but you're missing a very key part. Like, if one half of the team are being offered extra protections if they fall ill and are being paid for their time, then it's not a very equal team. We're not a team at all. Like, you are getting um so much more than the students that you are exploiting are getting. And my personal opinion is, if you truly believe we're all in this together, we're all colleagues, we're all one big team, then please, 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 please split your paycheck with me. Like, split your paycheck with me. That is the only way that I will say that, oh, actually, yes, we are all one big team, because we are all getting the same exact thing out of it. And yeah, I'm gonna save that thought for a bit later. But I think the main topic of what I want to talk about is whiteness. And by whiteness, I don't mean white people. Like, if you're offended by it, like, you know what? Like I said, swimming pool rooms rules, not rooms, lifeguard rules. That's it. That's what I called it last time. Um, yeah, like that's on you. And yeah, this is like, so the main thing about this episode is whiteness and like this whole blitz spirit. So it's like, kind of feel like we need to start with some definitions to make sure that we are all on the same page. So when I talk about whiteness, I'm not talking about white people specifically, but obviously, like, white people will be more susceptible to whiteness. And I'm just gonna say that whiteness is very, very different to white privilege. They're both related, but they're different. So like whiteness is talk like relates to like social and political, racial, economic, and cultural identities, and it's kind of like talking about what are the societal defaults. So I don't have like a proper definition or anything because I don't like to read too many of the great texts because I feel like it alienates people a little bit. But again, that's a thought for a different time. But the way I see it, the accepted default in society is if you're white, male, cisgender, heterosexual, middle class, all those sorts of things. That is what that is what the default is. And the further you stray away from this default, the less opportunities you have, and the less likely you are to be able to like just live a carefree life. So, in other words, if you're a person of color, if you are female, if you're transgender, if you are not heterosexual, if you are working class, then the more likely you are to be, I guess, discriminated and fucked over by the establishments, the more likely you are to go through some wild things, right? So, yeah, in like this whole like med Twitter, imperial students not wanting to do menial tasks, or in other words work as a healthcare assistant, I feel like we need to like address the individual students who are talking about this whole who are very, very eager to sign up and play their parts. And I just want to like put a disclaimer out there: these ideas are not original. Like, they aren't unique to me. I've actually spoken to like lots of different other people via WhatsApp, Twitter, whatever, and I'm just gonna give them a shout out right now. I've spoken to Kieran, who's another student at my university. I've spoken to my med Twitter auntie Amma. I'm not going to use her actual name. I've spoken to, as always, Anna Harvey. I've spoken to Todd the medic. I'm going to link all their profiles in the description. And so, like, this isn't unique to me at all, and this isn't like only my own idea. And it's just a case of people don't, like, this is what Kieran said, like, people don't realize that it is your own privilege that gives you the ability to step up in a crisis unpaid for brownie points. Like, I don't think people realize the things that you are volunteering to do are actual human beings paid work. And like, for like a lot of people, this is like a really cool opportunity. And it's like, yeah, I volunteered during the COVID pandemic. You get some nice brownie points, you get a lovely pat on the back. But for a lot of people, this is their actual job. And this whole thing just kind of like stinks of, yeah, so I went to Africa to volunteer on my gap year. And it's just like, what? Like, honestly, back in the day, I was one of those people ish. Like, I volunteered to help working class kids in London, and then during the year, I realized, oh, actually, I am one of the working class kids from London. Yikes. But that's a story for a different day, and I actually do want to share my reflections of that. It did actually change my attitude and my feelings towards volunteering. I still think I did a great job and thought it was like fantastic and everything. I love the program, but yeah. Anyway, we've already had these conversations about ethical volunteering and potentially stealing people's jobs from less economically developed countries and everything. Like, like going to Africa to help build a school or dig a well, and then the local people there actually having to um, rebuild the school or redig the well because you man went out there and did a rubbish job. So I feel like we need to apply a similar, not the same, a similar sort of thinking to these roles, because being a healthcare assistant is an actual job. People have certain expertise at doing this. Like it's yeah. I'm gonna stop there because I feel like I'm losing my words already. But it's a case of everyone deserves to be paid, and you can actually choose to work. Like the fact that some of you are out there looking down at other students who are saying, actually, this is a job and I want to get paid for it, is very, very telling. Because well, it's not very telling. Not I know, because like it is very telling, and it just like shows your proximity to whiteness, because you have all this societal privilege that a pat on the back is good enough payment for you to actually do this work. um and I just want to, so like my experiences on my gap year highlighted to me that to be able to volunteer is quite clearly a privilege, and I will always help people in any way I can. But I am very, very aware that I am not volunteering in the wrong way. So if I know something is an actual job and something that people get paid to do, I personally wouldn't go in and undercut that group of people and do that job for free. And to be honest, yeah, I would actually be really, really annoyed and livid if the students who opt to volunteer get a special award or something like that, because I think that's just not on. Because it does mean that the most vulnerable students in society did not have that opportunity open to them. Like, I'm thinking of the medical students who are maybe single parents and have to look after their children and are already struggling because they are having to pay extortionate fees, and then um, not and then because they're not able to volunteer because life is hard, they're not able to get that extra kudos, that extra special award that other students are getting, that will technically look good on their CV. And yeah, and it's just, I don't understand why medics, it's not all medics, some medics are so resistant to being paid to work. Well, actually, I do understand. Like, the powers that be are white and they are living their vanilla fantasies, and a certificate and a pat on the back is enough reward for the people who are closer to whiteness and are aspiring to have a bit more of a proximity to whiteness. But anyway, enough about the specific students. I actually want, like, this video is actually meant to be about the medical schools, Imperial, and my medical school, and the different NHS trusts and boards who are currently doing what they're doing, asking students to volunteer. In the case of my medical school, asking, and in the case of Imperial, not giving them a choice or even pretending to give them a choice. And the thing I am finding really difficult to understand is you guys have sat around a table. So I'm talking about the medical school and the people in charge of staffing at the NHS boards or trusts, and the people in charge of education. You've sat around a table, or I guess during this pandemic times, a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting. You've seen the guidance from the government, you've seen the guidance from the BMA, you've seen the guidance from the Medical Schools Council, and to make it worse, a lot of you most likely probably sits on these different boards that created the guidance. And then you saw what it said. You saw that it clearly says pay students should be offered all XYZ protections, yada yada yada. And you've literally brainstormed, what is the best way we can screw over students? Like, these students, they've been doing so much enjoyment during the pandemic. Like, we need to let them know where they stand. Like, they need to know that you are literally a body that can fulfill a role, and don't get it twisted. And it is very, very deeply it's very upsetting. Like, that is what it is. And I'm trying this thing this year in 2021 where I don't bottle up feelings and try to be strong and stoic and pretend like things don't affect me. But this actually really did affect me, and I'm gonna put it out there. I cried earlier today. I am genuinely usually unfazed by most things in life, but I cried when I realized this is the industry and this is the world that I am about to go into. um I don't usually disturb my flatmate with my problems or anything like that, but I had to like knock on his door and go into his room to like vent, because my heart was that heavy, my soul was that weary. Because this isn't on at all. Like, it genuinely does make me feel like you hate us and you have such strong disdain for us, for you to act in this way. It's so upsetting, and it's made me realize that this will never change. And one thing I'm doing right now is I am watching how different medical schools and different NHS trusts or NHS boards are responding during this pandemic, and that's going to make my decision on that's going to help me make my decision on where I work in the future. Because yeah, it's actually a lot. It's a lot. and and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, but when I'm on placements I help avoid jobs and yada yada blah blah blah. That is so true. So do I do it all the time. Like, it's nothing unique. Like, medical students in their clinical years do like take on like an assistantship role sometimes, and do bring great benefits to the ward. But I think the one thing that people aren't necessarily being honest about, and I think Instagram medics and medfluencers have got into your head a little bit. Because let's be really, really honest here, medical students are superfluous to the requirements of the ward. That is just a fact. Like, the ward can function without us. Like, our primary aim while we're there is to learn things. Like, as a medical student, and this is honestly one of the best pieces of advice I've ever got whilst I've been on placements. One of the regs I was working with during my first ever placement was like, I had to repeat the year because I was actually too keen and didn't actually do the things I needed to do. So I made sure I stayed late sometimes on placements and everything. but a key part of being in your clinical years is being able to recognize when you have exhausted all the learning opportunities for the day on that ward, and going into the library or taking a break or whatever to make sure that you actually know the things you need to know to be a good doctor. So I do it all the time, and I know most other medical students do the exact same thing. That when if you've been on placements, if you're on placements on a ward, and like the ward jobs are done and there's like no more learning opportunities, you're like, I'm gonna go now. I am going to go to the library to study a bit more, because during the ward round, XYZ condition came up and I looked like an absolute fool. Like, that is part of your placements, like realizing what you need to learn. And yeah, we all go home early, but the fact is, some students are being exactly rotated in to provide a service, to actually fulfill a role within the national health service, and that is not okay, because they are not going to be able to be like, actually, I have exhausted my learning opportunities for the day, I am going to go home now. They can't do that because they are rotated in, and they are being asked to fulfill a role unpaid. That is very, 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 very wild behavior. And I've been talking for like over 20 minutes now, so I feel like this is the perfect time to end this video. But before I end, I just want to send like a quick message to the qualifieds, to the junior doctors and consultants who are trying to appear very virtuous by throwing medical students under the bus, by saying nonsense like, oh, play your part, blah blah blah, and all that sort of crap. You are so very lost. You know, when you guys were complaining about, oh yeah, your exams being cancelled and your training programs being affected, did you guys hear medical students being like, oh, it's part of your role, it's what you signed up for, yada yada, blah blah blah? No. Medical students either kept quiet and liked and retweeted or did whatever, or supported you. You all need to do the same. Like, see how medical students supported you and, you know, had compassion for your plight and understood that actually, even when you're being paid, you know, people, students here complain about not being paid, but even when you're being paid, they realize that until you become a consultant, parts of your job is learning and training on the job. And you know, the medical students supported you. Like, I think it would be apt if you do the same. And finally, I'm making this video and putting it out there because I do strongly believe that when nonsense is happening, if you don't call it out, if you don't say that actually I am not okay with this, if you're not vocal about it, these people will kill you and say you enjoyed it. So I want the history books to know that you are actually killing me right now and I am not enjoying it. It sounds a bit dramatic, but you are killing me. Like, my morale is rock bottom, like absolute rock bottom. I don't, yeah. And I just realized I didn't even really drink my tea most of this episode. Yeah, but that's it. Maybe you'll get another video in about 4 months time, but I'm out of here.